Hi friends, this is Caly. Thanks so much for joining me. I've got a fun and simple Valentine's Day themed card using some products from Pretty Pink Posh's latest release. I am going to go ahead and ink blend my front panel first. Typically, I like to color my images before I create my background panels, but for this particular card, we're going to be layering some Distress Oxide inks to create the background and then using white pigment ink to create those layered bouquet effects. So that's going to take some time to dry, and so I decided to start with that panel so that it can set aside to dry while we're coloring. All right, so I'm ink blending a white panel with Distress Oxide inks using Tattered Rose, Worn Lipstick, and Seedless Preserves. After I've done that, I'm going to pull out these layered bouquet stencils by Pretty Pink Posh. I'm going to use my largest circles first, and then I'm going to pull out my white pigment ink and use a little finger dauber so that I can get more precision with where I lay my ink. So for this larger circle, I want it to be a more faint look, and you can definitely change it up as you go, but I just decided for all the larger circles, I want it to be a little bit more subtle. So I'm using a circular motion and adding just a light, faint layer of that white pigment ink. So I'm using a circular motion, and then you'll see when I get done with this, I'll be using the medium-sized circles, and I'll be pouncing on more ink. And that just leaves a little bit heavier of a layer of ink onto those circles to give it that layered bouquet effect. I find that the white pigment ink does want to work its way into the Distress Oxide background a little bit, so I kind of have to go back in and add more white ink. As that white ink dries, it does get a little bit more translucent in color, so you might want to add a little bit more ink or go back a second time, and that's what I had to do with this layer with the smallest circles. I go over it once and then I see that it's lightening up a little bit, and then I go back and add a little bit more white over top of what's already there. Okay, so once my background is done, I'm going to put it in my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp this heart image from the All My Love stamp set. This top panel is going to act as a template. I recently showed this in one of my videos, and so I just wanted to share it again for this particular card. I'm stamping the image on top of the top panel and then using it as a template. This bottom panel is what I'm going to color. And leaving that stamp in the same place is going to help ensure the perfect cutout later when I go to cut the heart out of that top panel. Before I do any die cutting though, I'm going to set that aside so it can dry, and then we're going to start on the coloring. I'm going to speed through the coloring because the coloring that I'm doing is very, very simple. I'm just using 2 markers for each color, adding a little dot for some shading, and then blending that out with a lighter shade. If you're interested in all of the markers that I use, be sure to check out the blog because I'll be listing it there. I'm using a very soft but colorful palette because I really don't want to take too much away from the bouquet panel that we have on top. I'll be coloring 2 hummingbirds from the Hummingbird Thanks set also, and I want to use those same colors. And on this one, because the image is a little bit bigger, I am pulling in a 3rd marker to either give it more dimension or to make blending a little bit easier. So the colors are the same. Again, I'll link it on the blog, so be sure to check that out if you're interested in the colors. All right, so again, very simple coloring. I am just adding the darker color, then the medium color, and then a lighter color to blend it all out. Now that we have all of the coloring done, I can go ahead and use that heart die to cut out the window for my shaker frame. So I've die cut that shaker frame, and now I'm going to stack the 2 layers together, and they should be perfectly in the right spot. And I'm just going to trim 1/4 inch all the way around. I like doing this to get rid of any harsh inked marks on the sides, and it just cleans everything up and makes it nice and crisp. All right, so now to create my window shaker, I am just adding a piece of acetate. I'm going to cut it down to size and then run some tape runner over the back of that panel and then adhere my adhesive. To create my shaker window, I'm going to go ahead and add foam adhesive all the way around. I'm using some flat iridescent mini hearts confetti from Pretty Pink Posh, and that's going to be very low profile, so I don't need a double layer of foam adhesive. I've added that to the center of my heart, and then I'm going to layer and adhere these 2 panels together. And that completes your shaker panel. So I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to the back of this and adhere it to a top folding card base, and then we can go ahead and embellish the outer portions of this shaker card. I've got my 2 hummingbirds that I previously colored, so I've die cut those off camera, and now all I need to do is adhere them to my card. I'm going to adhere them with foam adhesive because I like lots of dimension. So I've added those, and then the last thing to do is to create a sentiment. I'm going to emboss a sentiment from the All My Love stamp set, the same stamp set that the heart image came from. And then once I emboss that and trim it down, I'm just going to use my T-ruler to help me line up my sentiment before I press down and make sure that everything is in place. And that finishes my quick card for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.